Hey, what's up, guys? It is Rapmark here. So, doing my Sonic the Hedgehog 2 review. It's been a couple of weeks since I've seen this, but it was super fun, so let's get to it. um, I did enjoy this film. When I initially saw it, I thought it was better than the first one. And now that I've had some time to kind of ruminate on it, it's a little. So I thought it definitely had higher highs, but unfortunately the lows were really low. Like the first act, I th- I enjoyed it. There was some cringe in there, but I did enjoy the first act. I thought it was, it was. I enjoyed where they went with it. From with everything. Um, the second act, whew, the second act holds back this movie big time. It's a big wedding scene in Hawaii, and it's like we'll get into it in spoilers, but it felt out of place. I mean, it was fun in parts. Don't get me wrong, and they went to the ridiculous so far to the extreme where it was just like, okay. I mean, they're at least committing to the ridiculousness with it, so I'll go with it. But it felt out of place, and it felt like it just it would act as a drag on the movie essentially. It just like what was the point of this? It was a little no, it was super cringy. There was a lot of cringe in this movie. But there was also a lot of great things in this movie, and one of those great things was the final act. The final act, like that, is easily a 9 out of 10 for me. It was solid. It was almost perfect. There was a little bit of some things where I'm just like, okay, whatever. But I could go with it. I could look past it, and I really enjoyed the third act when they made it to the temple at last. Um, I enjoyed the message it had. About family, about friendship. Uh, and to be honest, I this is another one where I enjoyed the CGI for like because again, Sonic, Tails, not Shadow, Knuckles. They have to be CGI. They have to be. That's just the way it is. And thank goodness they redesigned Sonic from what they were first going to put him out as, because good grief. Anyway, but yeah, I enjoyed the CGI. I enjoyed the fighting. I think they did a very good job with it. Um, but yeah, there was a lot of cringe to it. I mean, again, this whole second act just felt like a ginormous drag on the movie. Not terrible because again, it's a kids movie. There's going to be some ridiculous to it, and they really played it up in that part. And so, I mean, there were parts of it that were okay, but I mean, just as a whole, the second act just seemed like a big drag, and it seemed very out of place. Um, the humor. I remember in the first one, so I didn't do an actual review on the first one, which I do feel bad about. But I mean, the first one, like just from what I remember, I probably would have given it an 8 because again, it's a super solid movie that did justice to the video game. Yeah, there were changes. I'm not, I wasn't, and I'm still not quite so sure about the human element, the in real life element to it. But it was a good movie, a good video game adaptation for sure, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. In this one though, like the humor in the first one was more solid than I would have thought. It worked out great. I laughed at a lot of the jokes, most of them, in fact. They didn't. Some of them were ridiculous, some were stupid, but I mean, it didn't feel like I had the cringe factor of the second one. The second one, there were jokes that just weren't hitting, and especially in the second act, it's just like all these one-liners are just like hey, and everyone just like yeah, silence, crickets. it the humor just wasn't quite up to par. There were a few things that I was like not a super fan, like the whole sheriff thing. I'm just like, why is this even here? It makes no sense. It's kind of ridiculous. The barista, his assistant, essentially. I'm just like, I mean, I can get it, I guess. I mean, if you want to treat your whole audience like they're 6 years old, but I don't know. It just wasn't meshing with it. There's the whole freaking like Dr. Robotnik like rapping while flossing. And I'm just like, where are we going with this? This is there was a super ton of cringe. Um, there was also a dance scene which was ridiculous, but I still enjoyed. I thought it was super fun. S a lot of other people, I can get why they wouldn't like it. I mean, it was super cringe. It was absolutely super cringe, but it was absolutely, for me. It was very enjoyable. Uh, but yeah, like the music. I don't know. The music was kind of a mixed bag. Like I found it very weird how they had essentially like a heavy metal song for some of it when he was creating the robot, and then like you go into freaking Bruno Mars, and I'm just like, I think that was what was that? The final battle, maybe. Yeah, but just some of the contemporary music that they used in there, I was just like, okay. Uh, Idris Elba for Knuckles was okay. He grew on me. There were some, I don't know, his accent, like I don't know. Like all I'll say is like when I first met him, I'm just like, I don't know about this, but he did grow on me. He did grow on me, so I'm okay with it now. It just took some time to be with that character and the fact that it's voiced by Idris Elba. Um, I liked Tails. I mean, from what I remember of like the video games, the lore, yeah, that's very Tails. He's obsessed with Sonic, and he's, you know, very clever, creates things. Perfect. I like Sonic. I do like Knuckles because I mean he's in lore, he's very serious, very to the point, but he can also be very naive. And Robotnik, obviously, with the exception of some of his jokes, was absolutely great. He like you can tell that Jim Carrey has a lot of fun playing that role, and he definitely played it up. Um, I'm and the second act kind of reinforced this for me. Like I'm kind of over the like human family element of it. It's just like, can we leave this behind now? It just seems like kind of a drag now. I mean, it did have a good point, and it was there at the end. It was fun, but I mean, I think it's exceeded its usefulness at this point, and I hope they really just play it down in the third one because it looks like they're going to make a third movie, um, which I'll have some more thoughts on after this. So anyway, uh, I did enjoy this film. I don't agree with my initial assessment that it's better than the first one. I mean, I can't give it higher than an 8. Uh, and again, it has lower lows. Like it has super high highs. The highs go way up. But again, you have a whole act that just feels like it's a drag on this. So I'm going to give this one a 7. Like, I did enjoy it. I do think it's worth watching. I do think you guys, as an audience, should watch this movie. But it just it's got its issues, but it ends out very satisfactorily. Like you definitely feel like you get your money's worth for this movie. Um, I enjoyed it. I was engaged. I was smiling, even though there was just so much cringe. There was so much cringe. But yeah, I think that will do it for this review section, non-spoilery. Um, so yeah, 7 out of 10. It is very above average. It is worth seeing. It does have a lot of cringe. Like, be prepared for a kids movie. Essentially, is what I'd say for it. And I don't mind it. I went into it with that expectation, and I was with friends, and it was super fun. So yeah, I have absolutely no problem dealing with that whatsoever. So anyway, thanks for joining me on this. I will be back in a bit with the spoiler section. So until then, I'll see you next time. Hey guys, it is Rapmark here. So with some of the spoilers with Sonic. So to get into some of the issues I had with this film. So the second act, it has this it's a super weird like wedding so essentially the guy from the original, who the heck is it, it's the Wachowskis, so Tom and Maddie Wachowski. uh Maddie has a sister who's getting married. They're going to Hawaii to deal with that. They leave Sonic alone. And I didn't mind all that stuff so much. I'm just like, okay, let's get them out of here. Let's have this be Sonic, and then the stuff with Dr. Robotnik and escaping the Mushroom Planet. That was actually super fun. I did enjoy it. And then Knuckles comes in, and it's just like, hey. So I did enjoy that. There's an initial fight where Sonic just gets his ass beat. It's it's pretty it's but yeah, it looks good. It looks good. Um and I did enjoy it. So then they go into this whole quest of trying to find this Master Emerald, which is comprised of several Chaos Emeralds. So, and it enables the wielder to essentially change. Is it change time? No, not change time, but change reality. So, what does this do? The Master Emerald bend reality to their will. There we go. And then he meets Tails in the course of this fight with Knuckles, and I love Tails. Tails, I absolutely loved. He is probably my second favorite CGI character. And they're yeah. um. So yeah, then you go into that. They go find it. They travel to Siberia. There's a big dance off essentially to get out of a inn that they're in because they needed to find shelter. And it's just like it was so cringy. It's like this big giant dance off, and I'm just like, what is happening? Oh my gosh, yeah. And then Robotnik coming back, and then his assistants is a barista in a coffee place. It's like the only coffee place in this small town. I'm just like, why are we focusing so much on this? And again, it would make like you wish that he would come around and realize that he just doesn't give a shit about him. So that Robotnik doesn't give a crap about him. Besides, as a complete sycophant. And but no, he just sticks with him through all the abuse, through all everything, and it's just like this is like in a weird territory, but okay. And then don't get me started with like so the deputy who becomes the temporary sheriff while Wachowski is away. Uh, again, I think they again a joke here or there I could get. I mean, it still I think takes away parts of the movie that I actually enjoyed. But man, they had a long sequence with him, and I'm just like, man, this is too long. Like, what is the point of this? And it wasn't good. It wasn't funny. It was again with a fake bagel. It's just like I'm gonna eat it. Fake bagel. Ugh. It was very cringy. It was super cringy, like, and not a good cringy either. Well, most cringe isn't good. Like the dance scene, it was cringe, super cringe, but it was enjoyable. This was like cringy, not enjoyable. Yeah, so I wasn't a fan of that. And then you go into this whole thing after a temple where he has to escape, and then there's a whole snowboarding section which looks cool, but again, it's just like Sonic's faster than this. Like this shouldn't be an issue for Sonic because he's so fast, and yet I don't know. I mean I guess it's one of those suspense of non-belief. Me, I just have a hard time doing that. I mean, I get it. Turning it like again, I can acknowledge the scene was cool. It looked cool, and I did enjoy it. But the whole time, I'm just like thinking, why doesn't he just run away? Like, and I guess there's tails there, but I don't know. I don't know. Um, but I did enjoy it. Uh, and then you come to the second act, which is this big long wedding scene. And it's just like, why is it? It felt like an ad for the hotel. I forget what it was. Like Four Seasons, I think, hotel chain. They used. I mean, they had freaking product placement for Olive Garden, for oh god, what was the car that they kept on saying like the charity has arrived. I forget, but yeah, it just it seemed useless. So the Wachowski, which one? The Maddie's sister, Rachel. She's getting married, and all the people who are there are like secret agents of Gun. Gun being something that was formed in the aftermath of the first one. They're trying to catch him, and this whole it just seems so elaborate. Like, why is every single person at that wedding an agent? And then it turns out the fiance is an agent as well. And then he like goes with the mission, and then in between he's just like, I do love you. And then they get back together, and then it's just like in a separate movie, like in a rom-com, this would be great. It would be perfect. It would be great. And to be honest, there were parts that I did enjoy about it, like her using Tails' little gimmicks to essentially against agents. And I mean, obviously, as a kids' movie, it will never show that. But I mean, an agent hundreds of feet into the air and then back down, and I guess he's But like in a different movie, it would have been perfect. And even as it was, I did enjoy certain aspects of it, but it just seems so out of place. And it's just like, again, why is every person here an agent? Why is her fiance an agent? Why does he now some? Why do they get back together and get married? And it didn't work for me. It did not work for me whatsoever. Even though I did find aspects of it enjoyable and funny, it just seemed like a huge drag. That whole second act just seemed like a massive, massive drag, which was unfortunate because otherwise the movie was. I would have probably given it a 9 if it wasn't for that second act. But that second act just dragged it so bad. Um, so anyway, he escapes, and then we go on to the temple, which I love. The only thing that I didn't like about the temple is again, it's this big maze where you look up, and it's just like there's this big maze, and then he like triggers the whole thing, and it's just like why you have gimmicks? Why can't you just fly over the top of this thing? And it never explains it. It's just like you got to go through this maze, and Sonic could have done the same thing, especially with Tails. But whatever. Like that's the only suspension of disbelief that I wasn't a fan of in terms of that. But I mean everything else I loved. I did like the booby traps. I liked the fight toward the end where they have this epic fight and then Robotnik betrays Knuckles, obviously, because he doesn't care about anyone. He just wants ultimate power, uh, and he takes it. And then we go to the actual showdown. And the thing I did, I was not a fan of what they did to his voice, his auto-tuned freaking voice. I'm just like, why are you doing this? And then he sings, and it's like, please stop. It was massively cringy, but I mean, I did like a lot of the CGI. The CGI where he essentially takes apart the armored vehicles of Gun, which I mean, I guess kind of works out because I want to show just how powerful he is. He takes them apart, does this tornado, and then he creates this giant Robotnik thing, which everyone realizes from the video games. It's great. It even has the mustache like Smash. It's it's great. I absolutely loved it. I I love that whole battle, everything about it, with the exception of again his parents showing up, where it's just like, why are you here? You know, you're putting yourself in danger, but you don't need to. Let Sonic and his gang do this because he's 3 now. And eventually they do come together, they do work out, and he does knock the emerald out of him, out of Robotnik. Robotnik's still able to control the robot, and he's going to crush him. And then Sonic takes the emerald and absorbs with it, and then becomes Super Sonic, and it's great. He looks all super. Yeah, there was a lot of Super Saiyan memes on social media with that. It was, and it fits because that's exactly what it looked like. And then he proceeded to annihilate this robot. And then he takes the robot out, and you think Robotic's gone because he goes down with the robot. And maybe it is because I mean, from what I've heard, Jim Carrey is retiring from acting. You know, and with the caveat of saying maybe if a screen's good enough and it comes my way, it's just like, okay, I'll go for it. I'm not sure Sonic 3 is going to be the one, which makes me a little bit worried about the third one. Um, but they have Shadow. Like that's one of the end credit scenes because they have an end credit scene there where the barista, I always forget his name, but whatever. And they find us a research facility, and it houses Project Shadow. So Shadow is now being brought in. So again, if it's Knuckles, Tails, Sonic, and Shadow, like it could still work. I mean, it would feel a little bit empty with Robotnik, but they could still make a good movie of it. As as long as they do other worlds. Like I want them to do other worlds. I want them to get away from Earth and the whole family thing. I believe it's played its purpose. It's served its role. But now it would become a running joke, and I don't think we need it anymore. So I hope they take a step back from it, even if they don't cut it out entirely. Which I mean, I'd get. I want them to, but I would get if they still have it in some respect. But I think they need to take a step away back from it. You know, he is growing up. He now has friends, and there's other worlds out there. Let's explore that. You know, let's get into some crazy territories with some crazy worlds and go from there. So, yeah, that's pretty much all my feelings on this movie. I did enjoy it. 7 out of 10. One less than I probably would have given the first one. It was still enjoyable. I still think it's worth seeing, and you should definitely go see it while you can. Um, so anyway, I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you guys next time. See ya.